Et Gwilym Lee, Rami Malek, qui vont nous rejoindre dans quelques instants sur vos applaudissements qui méritent amplement. Merci de votre accueil. Hey, standing ovation, you guys. We deserve it all.
Merci beaucoup.
All right, well, my first question will be to you two. Of course, iconic man, iconic band, Queen, iconic sound, and certainly Bohemian Rhapsody is very much so. I wanted to know, how did you each react when you knew you would be Freddie Mercury, and of course Brian May on screen? And more precisely, how did you make this iconic into the intimate?
You have to go first because I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment.
Well, I mean, I acted with Euphoria, which didn't stop for a good few days. My feet didn't really touch the ground. I still find it very surreal to say, my name's Gwilym Lee and I play Brian May. It never sounds quite right. But with that euphoria also came a sense of responsibility and a certain amount of trepidation and fear to try and do justice to this legend, this icon that is loved by so many, who is so unique, and not just that, but to represent the music and the story of the band. But fear is a good motivator, and it meant that you know, we're translating at the same time.
No, absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
Go for it.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, you're not hearing voices.
But yeah, so any time that I felt slightly overwhelmed by the prospect, it just motivated me to try and get on with the things that I can control, to work on the music and the guitar, which is very important for me and a really tough task for me, but to work on the gesture, the voice, the physicality, and try and just do things day by day. Don't think about the big picture, but just try and be at work every day and work as hard as you can and be there for everyone else on set and put in some hard graft.
What about you, Rami?
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Bonsoir.
Je suis très content d'être à Paris avec tout le monde. Something like that?
Yeah, totally, totally.
The first question, I guess, of course, you hear the news that you're playing this character and immediately, I think your heart almost stops. Mine almost did. I guess I'm the only person who actually gets to react that way, hearing the news of Freddie Mercury being someone that I get to play in a film. It is absolutely euphoric. There's a moment of elation like I've never felt in my life. And it's the same type of adrenaline rush, I think, as it was playing Live Aid. So, my heart pounding in a way I've quite never felt it pound before. Something like the Audiard film, the beat that skipped my heart, maybe. And then, of course, the inevitable fear and trepidation. But I thought, as an actor, we're very fortunate in that I think we're probably 1%, 2%, 3% of people who are tremendously qualified to be in this business, and we fortunately have this opportunity. So when something like this comes to you, you can't pass it up. Yeah.
Des questions, c'est à vous. Oui, première question, par exemple ici.
Congratulations first. So now
Oui, un micro,
so, congratulations again. So now I switch in French. Je voulais savoir, après, comment on ressort d'un tel tournage après avoir interprété ces légendes du rock.
Well, after being these rock legends on screen and on the set, how do you come out of such a film, of such characters, so to speak?
We really don't, do we? Because there hasn't been a day where we've not communicated, and we stopped shooting over 7-8 months ago. We're all on a WhatsApp group together. I have to admit it.
The group is called the Drama Queens.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's whenever I need to smile about anything, I'll go check it out. And one day, no, it will never be published.
But did they stay with you?
I'd say this. You know, in my, yes, of course it stays with you. It's one of those roles you just don't want to switch off and go move on to the next role. It's a joy. It's the joy of a lifetime to play Freddie Mercury. For myself, I'm sure it feels the same way for you. And you know you have to say goodbye, but it's like being at the airport with a loved one where you just keep turning back. And you keep turning back, and you keep turning back, until you just have to walk away.
Well said. Other question here, please. Yes?
En français, désolé.
Pas de problème.
Merci.
You're learning fast, hein?
Je veux aussi dire que c'était génial, donc merci. Et en fait, il y a un moment dans le film où on oublie que ce sont des acteurs, et quand on voit les images à la fin, on se rappelle que en fait ce ne sont pas les vrais personnages, donc c'est incroyable cette... ma question c'est comment ils peuvent-ils être aussi bons dans des rôles qui ne sont pas les leurs. Enfin bon, je ne sais plus, je suis très émue, je suis désolée.
Well, the lady, first of all, she's absolutely congratulating you, and she's very moved to the point that she wasn't sure how she would verbalize her question. But I think, what she meant is that we totally forget when we see you on screen for all, you know, I'm sorry that you are actors and you're not really, you know, Freddie or Brian.
Thank you. Yes.
But by the end, obviously, how did you do it in a way to be so true? How did you make them your own to make them believable? Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we started with, well, I can only speak for myself, maybe.
Yeah, you can speak for both of you.
Yeah, well, we started with the external things because they're known characters, they're real life legends. So we started with the voice and the way they move and the physicality, the way they dance on stage. And then it was a matter of trying to see how that affects the internal, which is maybe the different way around to how I would usually work. Usually I'd start with the inside and see how that affects the external. But we were all very adamant that we didn't just want to be mimics. We're not a tribute band, and we're not impersonators. So that the important thing was to try and inhabit those characters, to try and bring something of our own spirit and our own kind of soul and joy to the character as well. When we started shooting, we started with hello. Sorry. Oh, no.
No.
Hello.
Yeah.
Is that on? No. Hello.
No.
Shall I just project? I'm trained.
Mine is not working either. We're just...
Yeah.
Shall I just speak loud?
Yes.
Can you hear me at the back?
Yeah.
Great.
Theater trained.
Yeah.
Yes, theatre trained. Yes,
Right, thanks for
Shakespeare.
stand up.
Absolutely.
The first day of filming, we were doing the Live Aid sequence, and we had we'd worked out all of the choreography meticulously to the absolute minute detail. We knew we had to because it's such an iconic moment in history, in music history. And we did the first run through at the rehearsal that Brian and Roger happened to see, which was quite terrifying. And at the end of the run through, Brian came up to me and he said, "No, that's really good. You've got the detail down. It's very precise, but don't forget that I'm a rock star." and with that comes a bit of ego. And I thought it was a really, really useful note because what he's saying...
We're
back. I thought it was very... Hello.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very useful note because actually what he's saying in that moment is like, you know, you've got to feel it. It's all well and good being accurate and precise in the choreography or in the singing, but actually you've got to feel it with your own spirit. And it was a really useful thing to hear on set on day one because you had to just remind yourself of that all the time. Whether it's the joy of a performance or whether it's like the emotion of some of the more intimate scenes.
What about you?
It's very similar in the way, yes, working, very similar in the way that I usually go from the inside out, if that makes any sense. But this, I immersed myself in all the archival footage, and that can be quite fun when you're watching Freddie Mercury every night up until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I had... physically, I had a set of teeth made for me very early on because I knew that would be difficult to deal with, not only to talk with, but to project with singing on stage. I was very conscious as well of not doing a caricature or mimicking him. I wanted to spend enough time watching him and then trying to physically transform into a way that I was Rami underneath it all, but there was a mix of Freddie in there somewhere, and whatever happened after that, I hoped would just be the evolution of what we created together.
And you did keep the teeth, I believe.
I did. I did.
I read that.
I was so trained into making sure nothing happened to these teeth by my phenomenal makeup artist Jan Sewell that I couldn't even let them go at the very end.
Oh well, question over there. Oh, ici.
Hi. First, thank you very much. I'm sure it's a film that tons of fans have been waiting to see for quite a while.
Tell me about it.
Talking a bit about music, leaving aside Live Aid, which must have been monumental, what was the most challenging musical number to recreate? And also, is there a song from Queen you wished had made the cut in the movie and isn't?
I'll tell you, Live Aid was, for both of us, I can safely say, the hardest musical number to do. How many songs? 6?
Yeah.
And we started day 1, Bohemian Rhapsody. Day 2, Radio Gaga. Day 3, Hammer to Fall. Deos. Then We Will Rock You. No.
Crazy Little Thing.
Crazy Little Thing. Learned the guitar, never got used. We Will Rock You into We Are the Champions. Day, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day. And then there was some movements in Hammer to Fall that I just couldn't do. And I remember in rehearsal I was doing them and I couldn't figure out why. And it was only till we ran the entire sequence of Live Aid on the 7th day when I realized it was happening. I was doing everything that Freddie was doing, and in the moment, it was a sense that my adrenaline was heightened from song to song. It was elevated as each one went on, and then my body was doing things I was never capable of just doing in the moment. So it's another moment of pure elation when that happens, and you realize not only are you doing something special, but it's almost a similar feeling to what you must have exactly been going through in that moment, and that is quite frankly pretty mind-blowing.
Was that also the most challenging to you?
Yeah, but beyond to think of a concert other than Live Aid, I think we did a concert in Budokan in Japan. And there's only such a brief moment in the film that we see now, but we did actually shoot the whole of 39. I don't know if you know that song. It's a folk song about time travel, obviously written by Dr. Brian May. It couldn't have been written by anybody else. And it was so difficult to learn. He plays it on an Ovation 12 string, and it's really nerdly because he wrote it and really complex. So I was having a difficult time learning it anyway. And then the scene basically was telling a story about how loved Queen were in Japan at a very early stage. So they had a number of Japanese supporting artists storm the stage, and they really weren't shy, they really went for it. So while I'm trying to concentrate on this really difficult song, I've got like 3 very attractive Japanese ladies kind of throwing themselves at me. So that was a challenge. In terms of, it was a nice challenge. In terms of a song that wasn't included in the film, but that I wish was, we hear Somebody to Love, but I would love to have performed it. It's probably one of my favourite Queen songs. And I really would have loved the challenge of trying to achieve those vocal harmonies. It's Freddie's voice at its absolute best, I think. And the way that the band harmonised together is probably the best that you ever hear in all of their music, I think.
I see you nod to that.
Yeah,
That's also a song.
I love this song. We both have talked about this, how we both love this song. I think everyone collectively in the cast, it might be all of our favorite songs. But another one I loved to, when I was watching all the footage, was Don't Stop Me Now. I was begging the writers to put it somewhere in the film because I was ready.
You should have begged more, maybe. Question. Où est le micro maintenant? Ici?
Sure.
Good evening. How did you put yourself back in the 80s? Because the film, it's very moving. I was a teenager during the 80s, and listening to the songs brings back so many memories of that particular decade that was very different from today. And how did you do some research, or how did you put you back into this crazy decade?
You had Brian's clothing.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, he's very generous in